Hey guys, this is James with Real Oak Outdoors, and today I'm going to help you all understand how to hunt the rut a little better, specifically the lockdown phase and the post-rut phase, because that's about where we're at here in Kentucky. I've had a lot of people message me wanting me to make a video on the lockdown phase and best ways to hunt it and where to hunt it. Um, it's not real hard. The lockdown phase is a rough time. I'm not gonna lie. It is. It can be tough. But if you know where those deer are, if you know where they're gonna push those does, it could be some of the best hunting that you'll ever see. I've killed some nice bucks during the lockdown, and all I do is I figure out, where the deer are going, where the bucks are going once they get with a doe. Because his first thought is to get that doe away from everything else, all the other deer, all the other bucks. He wants to take her to the most secluded area that he can find, and the best way to find those areas is either have it scouted out prior to deer season opening, or use aerial maps. I can't stress this enough to other hunters. Utilize aerial maps. They can be your best friend when it comes to scouting, especially if you don't get a whole lot of time to get out in the woods and put boots on the ground. Get them aerial maps out and go over them. Look for those points to where the buck can push a doe to a corner and she can't go nowhere else, like a riverbank, a high rock wall, uh, places like that, to where other deer can't come in from behind. It's pretty much like a one way in, almost one way out kind of deal. That's where that buck's gonna push that doe. As long as he's got cover, a place where he can get in, and he can see if anything's coming from in front of them, and doesn't have to worry about anything coming from behind them, like a big creek or a river or a cliff, um, or a creek with a big rock wall or a real steep embankment, something that a buck's gonna have, or another deer, the doe he's got bedded down, is gonna have trouble getting through or getting over, because the deer don't like to swim that much. They will if they have to, but a doe trying to move away from a buck, she's not gonna jump in that river. She's not gonna jump over that cliff, and she ain't gonna scale a rock wall. She'll basically just let him push her into that area, and she'll just stay there until he's done. And not all areas have places like that. That's why it's very important to do your scouting before gun season opens, before the rut gets here, and find those areas. And once you find those areas, get you a stand up there, get you a camera up there, preferably a cell camera. That way, when the rut does start, if you're hunting somewhere else, like I don't hunt those areas until the rut has started. And once the rut starts, I'll keep an eye on those cameras. Once I start seeing a lot of movement, especially buck movement in that area, I'll I'll get in there. I'll slip in there. I'll have me a way picked out already to be able to get in there without spooking them. And you don't have to get right up on them. You don't have to be right there in their faces. You could be 150 yards out, because those deer will move from that area slightly throughout the day. He won't move real far, but they will eat. Deer have to eat 3 to 5 times a day. And if they got an area close if he pushes that doe to an area to where he can seclude her from other deer, and there's food and water there, he's not going to go very far at all. So you don't have to be right on top of them, but try to put yourself between that area and the food or the water, like a watering hole along a pinch point, or anything that he can keep that deer secluded to where he can keep her hidden. Thicket, uh, cedar thickets, really nice areas. Anything with waist high, grass, anything like that. If you can find water in those areas, get you a stand there, because that's where bucks are gonna push them does. In my area, it's a big creek, and there's a couple good high banks on the creek to where, deer can't get up them. They don't even try. They just walk around them. Well, I've seen bucks push these does down into that creek bed. I've seen a buck have a doe, where her back pretty much was the only thing out of water. Everything else, he kept her in that water. And that way he could keep other bucks away from her, and he just patrolled back and forth around the edge of that little pocket of water. It wasn't very big, about the size of, a large swimming pool. And it worked for him. I watched him run off 2 or 3 different bucks from that doe. But those are the areas that you want to try to find during the lockdown phase, because it can be tough. And another thing I try to tell, my friends and other hunters that message me that, have trouble hunting during the rut, is thin your does out. If you're hunting public, I know it's kind of hard. If you're hunting private, it's a little more easier. You can do more, a little better deer management. But thin the does out. A lot of these guys I talk to, they're like, oh, well, if you ain't got a bunch of does, you won't have bucks. That is the furthest from the truth as you can get. And this is the reason. Let's say you got a buck, he finds a hot doe. He's on lockdown for a few days. Normally 24 to 48 hours. I've seen them go as long as 3 or 4 days on the same doe. Excuse me, my allergies bother me. But here's the thing. Once he breeds that doe and he lets her loose, if he can just run right over into the woods and find another hot doe, because there's so many of them out there, he's on lockdown again. And that could take 15 minutes. It could take 2 hours. It could take 2 days. If there's a lot of does out there, he's going to find one quick. And then he's going to be on lockdown again. And then you're going to be struggling to find him. You're going to be struggling to hunt him. You're most likely not going to be able to call him off that doe, especially if she's still, ready to go. It's very hard to call one. I'm not saying you can't call one off a doe while she's in heat. I mean, it is possible. I've seen it happen. But it's a lot less likely to happen. So thin them does out. Try to manage your buck to doe ratio as best you can. Another thing that will help, especially on the post rut, is food sources. People think that these deer just run and run and run and run for 2 or 3 weeks and they don't eat. They do. They stop and eat. They eat 3 to 5 times a day, just like normal. But they might not cruise as far as to find that food. They might eat for 5-10 minutes and then go back to running does. Or they might better down and not move and just sit there until he gets hungry again. Then they'll get up and he'll do his thing and eat and then continue back with the doe. But a lot of people don't realize during the rut, during those 2 or 3 weeks, deer will lose possibly anywhere from 25 to 35% of their body weight, their body fat, all that. With wintertime right here, they're going to put that back on. So as soon as you see the rut slowing down to where it's more towards the end of the rut, and maybe the rut's over, hit them food sources. Get in there between the bedding area and the food sources and set up. Don't sit right up on the food source. Don't sit right up on a bedding area. Find you an area in between. 100 yards from either one of them is fine. Them deer will travel there. You just got to figure out which route that they're taking. But they will. They're going to hit them food plots, and they're going to hit them hard. If you can, try to find them food plots that are inside the woods. I'm not saying open fields ain't bad. The cut corn's great, stuff like that. They'll still get in there, but you run the risk there of having a 500-acre field with a deer on you, 300-400 yards away from you, versus in the woods to where you got the deer possibly 150 yards or less. Plus, they're still on heightened alert. They're still, nervous from all the deer hunters being in the woods. They're not going to expose themselves any more than what they have to. So they're going to go to them food plots in the open fields like ag fields late. They're going to wait until dark. They'll run the edges and wait till dark and then go in there. And if they get any hint of any kind of scent that they don't like, you're not going to see them. So find the food sources in the woods, acorn flats, persimmon trees, new growth if it's in a logged out area, and hunt those areas. They're going to be in there. They're going to start looking for food. They're going to want to put that weight back on. But other than that, that's where my success comes from. And I learned the same way, that most of y'all did. Papa taught me one way, Dad taught me another, and then watching YouTube videos, I learned quite a bit from that. And I'm no expert by no means. I'm sure there's still stuff that I can learn and mistakes that I'm probably still making. But I'm trying different stuff. I hunted for the longest of time with Granddad's, old advice. Sit down and shut up. Don't move. And that works. It does. You'll see deer doing that. But if you want to put yourself on that deer, instead of just sitting there waiting for them to come by and hope that it happens, if you want to put yourself in a position to be in that area, because you know that deer is going to be in that area, then you have to change up your tactics. You have to try different things. You got to be open to hearing different, style of hunting. For the longest time, I sat on the ground, and then I moved to a ladder stand and hunted out a ladder stand religiously, almost my whole life. And then here recently, I kind of got into the platform to where I can move around. A little bit of saddle hunting. I haven't done a whole lot of saddle hunting yet, but I'm going to start doing more of it because it allows me to be able to move, pretty efficiently, quietly. If you are going to start saddle hunting, I do advise you to, practice first before you just go buy a saddle and then jump in a tree, because it takes a little bit of practice getting used, to putting your sticks on and using your lanyard and your cinch belt and all that stuff. But it's worth it. I love it. It helps me be able to move from one spot to the next without having to worry about taking my climber out of the stand or buying 15 different ladder stands. So, get your one, try it out, make yourself where you can be mobile. I know a lot of guys, they don't like it. They're religious on that. I've hunted that stand for 20 years. I've killed deer out of that stand every year. Yeah, I mean, you probably have. But think about the potential deer that you're not seeing. You may be seeing good deer out of that stand. And, it may work for you. You may have that perfect setup. But deer are not stupid. They know that stand's there. They know it's been there for a long time. The big mature deer, they're not dumb. They know this time of the year when they start hearing car doors and start seeing lights in the woods and hearing four-wheelers where they're normally not hearing four-wheelers, or normally, seeing more, action out in the woods or, movement, stuff like that from hunters going in and out of the stand. They're not going to go close to those stands. They know what they are. They know what, they know people's going to be in them. They sense that stuff. And that's why, you might get you a 140, 150 class deer. Yeah, that's great. That's a great deer. I would shoot it. But those 170s, 180s, 190s, they're there. They're just shying away from that area. You got to make yourself be able to be mobile and move to those areas to where they're not, where they're not expecting you to be. And a good mature buck, if he's been in that area 5, 6, 7 years, he knows where them gunshots are coming from. He knows where he picks up a smell of a human, because you take the same path every year, year after year after year. They pick up on that. They're not dumb. They don't live that long and get that big for being dumb. But that's about the best advice I can give. Other than, try to hunt the wind best you can, even on them areas where them bucks are going to push them does during lockdown. You got to be able to figure out how to get in there to where you can use the wind to your favor. Because if not, you got two noses to worry about instead of just his, and they will bust you out and they will take off. And use some good cover scent, any kind of earthy scent, something that's natural to the habitat. I got some hunters, friends of mine, that they'll use an apple scent, scent cover to go hunt cedar thickets and creek bottoms with no apples around. It may work every now and then, but you use what's in the area. If you can find a cedar scent, find a cedar scent. If you can find a, fox pea, if you got foxes in there, use fox pea. Use what the deer are used to smelling. If you throw something new in there, it's going to put them on high alert, especially this time of the year. But other than that, I'll give you the same advice everybody else does. You ain't going to kill them if you ain't out there. So, work them cameras, make yourself mobile, utilize aerial photos, and you'll find more deer. You will. You'll see more deer. You'll see bigger deer. Things that you didn't even know was in the woods. And I was the same way. I hunted like that for years, where I hunted the same stand, same trail, until I started taking advice from another hunter who told me to move things around. Move my cameras, put them in different spots. Put a camera 30 yards from the camera that I've always had there. And I was surprised. I was seeing deer on that camera that I'd never seen on my regular camera before. Didn't even know that deer was in the woods. And so it opened up my eyes to a lot of different things that I realized that I need to be doing different. And some things I'm still not, I'm still not 100% doing them different, but I'm working, I'm trying to make a change to it. It is difficult after you've done something for 15, 20 years. It's hard to switch. It is. But once you start seeing the different caliber of bucks on cameras that you're never seeing before, you're gonna be surprised, and you're gonna want to start making those changes. Because I got bucks on camera that, I've hunted this same piece of public land for 5 years, never seen these deer on there until I started moving cameras around, and all of a sudden they're there. And some people will be like, well, the rut, they'll show up, you never know what deer will show up. No, I'm getting these deer on camera in September. I'm getting them in early October. They're there. I'm just not seeing them because I was so used to putting my camera on a certain trail that I put it on every year because it was a worn down trail. But what I didn't think about it being was that's a trail that's mostly being used by does and smaller bucks. These bigger, mature bucks, they're going to have another path. They're going to have another trail that most time does cut across those. And a lot of people do know that. A lot of people know that a buck will have a trail across the ridge line where he can, cross several different doe trails, to get a scent. But during the year when it's not during rut, they will use other trails also. Ones that don't look beat down. You can't really even hardly tell they're a trail until you just find, every now and then you'll find a little sign here and there that says, okay, there's a deer coming through here. But it doesn't have a lot of activity, or doesn't look like it does anyway, so you don't want to put a camera on there. Put a camera on there. You will be surprised what you see. That deer might not come through here every day, 2 or 3 times a day. You might only get him on camera once or twice a week. But he's on there. He'll use it. He's just using a different trail than what all the other deer that you're seeing on your trail cameras is using. Well, that's about all I got. If any of y'all have any questions, or if you got something that you want me to try, tell me. I'm all about learning. I'm all about trying to make things better for myself in the woods, easier. I mean, it's already hard enough to hunt public land like I hunt. So any advice that I could ever take from somebody, I'm going to take and try it out. If it works, great. If it don't, at least I tried. But a lot of the advice that I have taken so far, I've been seeing a lot better deer, more, bigger caliber deer. And I'm going to continue doing that and see how it works. And then something new comes along, I may try that. So, all right, guys. If y'all have any questions, feel free to, leave them in the comments section, and I'll do my best to answer them. If any of you have a piece of ground you'd like for me to come look at to help you figure out if your stand location's right or your camera location's right, or try to help you find those bedding areas that you can't find, or, different crossings that, that you're not seeing, or maybe even a spot where, the bucks will push the does to that you're not seeing, I'd be more than happy to come take a look at it. I'll be happy to help you with any of that stuff. So, all right, guys. Well, I appreciate y'all watching. Thank you for subscribing. Make sure you hit the like button. I don't get paid for any of these videos, so I would love to make more, but, unfortunately, I still got to work for a living. So maybe one of these days I can make enough off these videos to where I can make a lot more of them and, be on here more. But until then, I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll make another video soon. Thanks, guys.